you're on.
All right, good evening, everybody. Zachary Karen, the chairman of the Dayton Zoning Board of Appeals. It is 7:07 for our regular meeting. We are going to have Michelle Lima. Do you mind reading the note at the top of the agenda for me, please?
Sure. Okay. Due to COVID-19, this public hearing will be held remotely with no physical meeting location. Those seeking to provide public input should do so using the methods listed below. Video and audio of the meeting will be aired on local TV channel 9 at a later date. Let's see, I'm just trying to find the right Zoom thing.
So, Michelle, we're actually not going to be having a public hearing tonight.
So I don't have to miss, okay.
Yeah, so we, yeah, unfortunately, I don't think anything in this agenda is actually
No.
correct, unfortunately.
No, you're right. Now, yeah.
Well, I can add, attendees will be muted during the meeting and will be unmuted during any public input. However, there will not be a public input for tonight's meeting. If they do have any questions, they can email the letter J, GRAY at Dayton-ma.gov. Is that good?
Excellent, thank you. So that being said, while we're waiting for Marguerite, who should be joining us within the next 5 minutes or so, she was told beforehand that she would not need to be here until 7:15, and obviously due to the change of plans, we cannot proceed until she's here. So again, that'll be 5 more minutes. So that being said, I just want to entertain a motion to take a brief 5-minute recess at least until Marguerite is present onto the call.
This is Jonathan Gale. I will make a motion that we take a 5-minute recess until Marguerite, our counsel, is present to join us in this call. The recess should last for 5 minutes.
Is there a second?
Michelle Lima, second that motion.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we're in a 5-minute recess officially until Marguerite gets on. In case no one heard before, I did call her. I left her a message, but I'm sure she's just getting home for the day. So Jonathan, if you want to just lead in with the basis for the postponement of the first meeting.
So, Mr. Chairman, you would just like me to basically just explain the reasoning for our postponement tonight on the
yes, yes.
So, sure. So,
yes.
So everyone understands, we had a public hearing tonight for case 2, 2020, which is for 2792 Elm Street. That case was a variance petition, and that was a public hearing. So that will be needing to take a vote for the ZBA to postpone that to our October meeting tonight. The matter before us also tonight is an update from Dayton Woods. That is not a public hearing, although it is in a public meeting. So that I don't believe we necessarily need to postpone that. But basically, just so everyone is sort of understanding the link that was posted to the agenda and posted at Town Hall is incorrect. So that means that anyone who saw that link and is using that link is not going to land at the right spot. So that's why our public hearing tonight won't be able to proceed.
Okay, right. So now, Marguerite did advise that we would need to check the deadline for this case, but now due to the act by Baker, the governor, there is no deadline for rescheduling. John, do I have that correct, the wording on that?
Yeah, Attorney Mitchell, you can clarify, but I believe for case 2, since we're currently under Chapter 53, Acts of 2020, Section 17, I don't believe we have a time frame that we have to act for that specific case.
Thank you. You're correct. That is how you're operating, and I appreciate you reminding everybody of that.
And
all right, so that's
just for clarification. Sorry, just for clarification.
No.
So we're still fine to proceed with the Dayton Woods matter tonight. Is that correct, Attorney Mitchell?
I believe Dighton Woods was just coming before the board, not as a public hearing at this stage. So it's a public meeting. Do you have a way for the public to access this other than through the Zoom link?
So as I believe the state law is that if there's remote participation, and it's a public meeting, it only needs to be recorded and provided within a short period of time afterwards. Unfortunately, I don't believe we are able to broadcast tonight on YouTube as planned. So
That's right.
that is the other.
But it will go to Channel 9 though after.
But you also, are you offering a way for people to email or phone in as an alternative to public access that could still be done during this meeting?
Yeah, so the email and phone number listed on the agenda are correct, and I will be receiving any sort of communications via that during the meeting.
And then if
Hey,
anyone,
The only question there, this is Mr. Gale, Attorney Mitchell. The only question would be is that the original link provided is not correct. So the agenda does have the correct phone number and email. The agenda does not have the correct link.
Right. Yep.
that's what I was trying to clarify. So the original link would get somebody into the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Is that correct?
I believe that was the link that was the connection that was given, right, John?
Zach, this is Dighton TV9.
Yep.
The original link for ZBA, unfortunately, Zoom does not allow one account to host 2 meetings simultaneously. So if we were to try to open the original link, it would boot the Board of Selectmen's meeting out of the system.
But if someone tried to access that from the public,
It's going to say that the room is not open. It's not gonna allow them to enter anything because that room technically is closed.
and there isn't able,
Okay.
is there any way to have a message?
So I have updated the ZBA website with the public hearing information for tonight for case 2 as indicating that it's postponed.
Yeah, he emailed them too.
Yeah, I also updated, I emailed everyone who I had sent the original link, an updated link. So everyone who had received the original Zoom link has a new link in their email inbox. But as far as if people were theoretically visiting Town Hall and took a picture of the agenda, and that was the only way that they were, going to watch the meeting, that would be incorrect.
Right.
But they would have, that agenda would also have the phone in and the email, correct?
Yep.
That is correct.
Now, can cable let me know, I don't know who's hosting the original link, but they should get notice that someone's trying to enter that meeting, wouldn't they?
They would not, because technically they are only hosting the Board of Selectmen's meeting at this moment. The original link for this meeting has officially been closed and will not be reopened, because if it were to be reopened, the Board of Selectmen's meeting would go down on Zoom.
The issue there is that because it's in Zoom and it's a different link. So therefore, when somebody tries to access this one, the other folks don't get a note that somebody is trying to access a different link. So they will not be aware of that regarding anyone who is involved in overseeing or coordinating the selectmen's meeting will not see anybody who's trying to log in, because they're trying to log into a link which is not actually for the Board of Selectmen. The issue is we can't have 2 links at the same time. So because there's already a Board of Selectmen meeting, we can't have a second link via that same Zoom account at the same time. So no one who tries to log in from that account will know that they'll just simply get a dead room or a room that doesn't exist right now, as noted by Jonathan Gray. The Board of Selectmen person who is coordinating will not know that.
Okay, so what I guess
Right.
I'm trying to understand is it 2 different links that were being used for Selectmen and Zoning Board, or the same link?
Two different links, 2 different accounts.
Yeah, 2 different links.
Okay.
So that being said, Marguerite, so are we then good to resume even for Dighton Woods?
Yeah, I'm thinking you are. I just want to make sure you're doing everything you can to notify the public. Is there any way you can post Jonathan Gray anything on the Dayton website that says that the Zoom link is not working, and if you want to provide public comment, you should use the phone in or email.
Yeah, I can update the ZBA page to indicate that.
All right, why don't we,
And
then I think I would feel that you've done everything you possibly can to.
so, and Marguerite, too, just for the record, once we found out this was going to happen, I got on the phone while Jonathan was talking to everybody else that he could. I also then called cable and I asked Andrew, I said, just out of curiosity, when things like this happen, what does the town do? Is there any kind of blast way to contact people? I said, we're okay contacting the people that we need to, but my concern was, how is the public going to find out? And he said there really isn't any kind of protocol or method in which they, are able to contact everybody. So that's I'm not really exactly sure. I'm not if there even is anything we could have done. Andrew, is that right? I mean, there's nothing really that we could have done aside from this.
So the only other thing that we could do for you guys is we could re-upload the public, like the email and the phone number, to the Dayton community Facebook pages that we're members of. But that's really the only mass way we could get information out at this time.
I guess if you don't mind doing that, I mean, I know it might not be the best way, but if it's any way, I guess it might be worth doing.
I'll have Laura do that right now.
Well, let me.
That's fine.
This is Jonathan Gale. Let me ask.
What's up, John?
No, I want to ask our council a question that might answer part of this. Because tonight because we're discussing Dayton Woods, and we will be taking testimony if people wish to give public testimony, and there are a number of people on here, so I'm suggesting that there probably will be. Marguerite, can we keep the public commentary open for X number of days so that if people want an opportunity to respond who couldn't log in, they still have an opportunity to have their testimony submitted, and then we'll receive copies of it?
So it's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting. So the public can provide input, but they're not providing testimony.
Well, input, let me use the word input then. If the public wants, can we keep it open after today for the public to provide additional input or not?
So the public always has a right to send a letter to the zoning board to provide input at any point in time. And that can be taken up by the board at its next meeting, but you don't leave this meeting open.
Okay.
Close the meeting because you're members of the board and you need to dissolve the meeting tonight so that you can then reopen it at another day. You can certainly continue the conversation to another meeting if you want to do that and take a vote to do that.
Well, I guess that answers, you just answered the question then if necessary.
This meeting open.
Thank you.
Okay, so then that being said, we are free to resume. Jonathan Gray, is there anything that you need to attend to, or are we good?
We will need to take a formal vote to postpone the public hearing for case 2 to our October regular meeting, which I believe it's October 28th, but let me check that.
Jonathan,
So that being,
this is
hey
Greg.
Greg,
Lowe.
how are you?
What's happening, bud? Hey, I'm not going to be around. I'm leaving on the 23rd and I won't be back till the 30th
Okay,
of October.
that's fine. I guess as long as we have enough members there that we can still have a meeting.
So Greg is a voting member on that case.
On that case, he is. Okay, so that being said, we gotta figure out another date then before we continue it. I'm up for whatever. So whatever works for everybody else is fine with me.
I'm open.
Greg,
Anything prior to that, it's whatever anybody else counsels.
And then you're back. You're back when, Greg?
I'll be back Friday the 30th.
Okay, so the same week. So if we have to, worst case, go to the next week after that, it's okay with you?
Absolutely, or the week prior to that.
Week prior was good too. Okay.
Yep.
So
I'm looking at I'm working off of the town meetings calendar right now.
Exactly. Yep.
It looks like The 19th, October 19th, there's a sewer commission meeting at 4:30 p.m. So we'd be fine to have a meeting on that Monday night. There's an agricultural commission meeting on the 20th at 7 p.m. I'm not sure if they're having it on Zoom or not.
Yeah. Okay, so that's fine with. I mean, the 19th is fine with me. I would just have to have a motion in a second.
Before we do that, let me ask
Sure.
Mitchell, would we need to re-notify the abutters for case 2792 Elm Street, / also do another Taunton Daily Gazette ad because the public hearing continued was not held technically?
Because you're simply, tonight you're voting to continue it. So you're not taking any testimony or information in, but you are continuing it at a public meeting. So you're
Okay.
doing that. I know I'm not involved in that particular case, but if you're thinking of making that a meeting on anything else that you'd want me at, I am not available on the night of the 19th. I have another meeting scheduled. So that's
okay.
That you hear this case, but if you possibly need me for something else, I won't be available.
All right. So I guess that being said, if anything from tonight does need to be continues the next meeting, she would not be available for that. So that's one thing to consider too, right?
Cable, are you broadcasting the Dighton Water District regular meeting on the 14th of October?
No, we're not. We don't handle their meetings.
Okay, so I guess my question,
okay.
The question to the board would be: would October 14th at 7 p.m. work for that day?
It does for me.
It does for me.
Yes.
Yes, that works.
Excellent. Okay. So, Margaret, how about you? Is that fine with you?
Yes.
If needed.
Yes, that's fine with me if needed.
Okay. So that being said, do I have it? I just need a motion, guys.
This is Jonathan Gale again. I will make a motion to continue case 2 until October 14th, 2020.
And do I have a second, please?
Ryan Eckerson, I second it.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Excellent. Okay, guys. So,
I do have
sorry
one thing, Zach, it's 7 p.m., correct?
Yes. Yeah. We'll keep the same time. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so that motion was to continue the case 2 public hearing to October 14th, 2020 at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Seconded by Ryan, his first second. Congratulations,
Yeah,
Ryan.
I was going to say, there you go.
And all in favor. So that was
Aye.
good. Yep, we're all set with that. So we can move on to the next agenda item now.
All right, guys. And just once again, on behalf of the board and myself, I do apologize for everything. Unfortunately, it's one of those. It's the first time something like this has happened with it, thankfully, but I know it doesn't really help some people who may have been trying to get on for tonight. And I'm very sorry for this, guys. It's unfortunately one of those things that it's technology. It happens. We try to rectify that the best way that we possibly can. Anyone with questions or want to give the office a call, please do feel free. We'll give you any information that we possibly can. Marguerite, I'm not sure if you want to speak first or we want to have the attorney for Dighton Woods speak first. It's up to you.
I mean, this is a request by the developer. They should always present the case first.
Okay, are they here?
Yep.
I can't see anybody.
Yeah, Mr. Corey, feel free to provide your update.
Thank you, Mr. Greg. Mike Corey of Madoff and Corey for Dighton Woods. I'm here with Jay Zola, principal of Dighton Woods, along with Joe DiGirolamo, who is the principal of the roadway contractor. We are about a month. The roadway has been substantially complete for a year or more. There's very little, as reflected in the cost estimate of GZA on the last amendment to the tri-party agreement. There's not a whole lot left. The finish course on the roadway manhole and catch basin frames, the berm, sidewalk ramps, and some other items, totaling in GZA's estimate $130,000 with a $25,000 contingency. We anticipate getting this work done by the first week in November. And the road, then with this, the roadway will be done. Dighton Woods has sold all 65 homes. Everyone is in there. The work is done, but for the roadway. And we wanted to get an understanding, reach an understanding with the board on the work to be done, the way in which disbursements will come out of the tri-party agreement. We were before you last May, and at least in my mind, I wasn't really clear. What we would like to do is, as the work is completed, and you're the representative of the town inspects the work as reflected in the 14 points on GZA's estimate, cost to complete estimate. We'd like to have those cost allocations along with the percentage, the allocated portion of the 20% contingency released, and then go forward with a minimal retainage pen for repairs, et cetera, to the extent they're necessary before the roadway is accepted. And we would anticipate presenting that by the spring annual town meeting for roadway acceptance. And also Attorney Mitchell and I have been discussing some documentation. This project has been around for nearly 20 years. And I have stepped in the last year as substitute counsel. The original counsel has retired due to illness, and it's difficult. It's difficult to get a hold of him. I think he's relocated, at least for a portion of the time, to California. But there is some documentation dating back to the 2000s that Attorney Mitchell and the board were looking for and questioning, and I'm pledging to work with Attorney Mitchell on that. But we want, for the benefit of the homeowners who now all have moved into the homes, we want to get this roadway done, and we can do it in the next 5 to 6 weeks. We'd like to reach an agreement with the board on disbursements from the tri-party agreement as this roadway work is done.
Okay. Anything else that you need, or is that all you are you looking for today?
That's what we're looking for is once we have that, we can build it. Once we have this agreement, we can get the road done in probably a little over a month's time. It's the documentation is confusing, and I would like to, there's contradictory provisions in the comprehensive agreement, the tri-party agreement, and other documentation. And we'd like to move forward this tri-party agreement to make sure the roadway's done. It will be done, and we want to get this work done with an understanding as to how we can get disbursements out of the tri-party agreement and account.
Okay. All right. So that being said, Marguerite, I know you've been working on this. If you just want to tell us what you have to say about this.
Yes.
Oh. Do you want to take questions first, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, sure. That's fine.
Okay.
Greg, is that you?
Yeah, I had a couple questions in regards to the Dighton Woods. I know he came in front of us and he was reaching out to have some of the monies released a month or so back, or might have been a little longer. One of the questions I wanted to talk to you about was, has Peter Williams, is he the engineer in regards to the Dighton Woods project?
Yes.
All right, has Peter Williams come out and did any documentation or anything that you're stating that has been completed since then? Do we have anything from Peter Marguerite?
There's been nothing completed since then. We're not asking for any sort of a release right now.
So nothing's been done.
Well, I don't know that nothing's been done, but we're not asking for any release beyond, from the last documentation that Peter did. We're accepting what Peter did as a documentation, and we're going to move forward from this point forward. We're not here saying, oh, we want $25,000 next week. We don't want any money at this point.
So from the last meeting that you were at, from the last meeting you were coming in front of us, you came and was talking about how you would like to see some of the monies released. You have done nothing since then to this meeting now?
I never asked for money to be released from this particular, from the $170,000 balance.
That's right, I remember that.
Released.
But now what I'm saying is that you came, so why did you come a month or two back? What was your reason for meeting with us?
We didn't come in a month or two back.
Well, your last meeting that you came to us, what was your reasoning?
Discuss the documentation and all of that.
Of what?
Anything else?
Can I respond? We came before you. The last time we came before you was May of 2019. And that was because I was stepping in to replace Anthony Matera as counsel. And I was trying to get a handle on what was going on. And I had sent a letter to the board and to Attorney Mitchell, and Attorney Mitchell responded in detail. We were just trying to get some direction because I was a bit lost because we were not able to get the former attorneys' records. We weren't looking for any disbursements then, and we're not looking for any disbursements now. The roadway is very near complete, and it will be complete if we can get some kind of arrangement done in 5 weeks' time. We wouldn't look for any money until the town's engineer or other representative who's authorized by the board signs off on the release and the work being completed. But we just like to have some kind of process because we are at
All right, I understand where you're coming from now. So
it was the last time we were here was because I was trying to get a handle on things. I stepped in at the 11th hour, the last year and a half of a 20-year odyssey.
Yeah, no, this has been going on for a long time, absolutely. So what the only reason why so you're asking us today for like a slow payment, so we'll do so much. Once that's completed, Peter Williams agrees, then you will get the release of that money as we go forward. Is that what you're hearing from us asking for?
As he or GCA is budgeted.
Okay, that's all I have right now.
This is Mr. Gale, and my question for the developer at this point is, judging from what you've submitted, from your perspective, and I have no reason to not know otherwise, you need these funds released in order to pay for the completion of the road. Is that correct?
Yes, after the work's complete, yes.
Okay, so my concern only is that if the funds are released prematurely, or once this part of the work is done, without hearing potentially from our engineer, from Peter Williams, on other aspects of the project that need to be probably looked at and concluded and signed off on, the same thing from our building inspector, and other aspects from our highway department as well, 3 different individuals who represent the town. If these funds are released at this point for you to finish the road, understanding that you need it, that doesn't leave a heck of a lot left afterwards.
Excuse me, I don't think you understand what we're saying. We're not looking for the money to be released until after the work is complete.
But is that only for the road work, or is that for other potential work that still exists?
There's no other work but the road work.
Yeah, that and the tri-party agreement was to fund the roadway.
It's only for the road. The only item on the list that's not hard road, meaning pavement, asphalt, loam, is the as-built plan.
You do a couple things though, guys. Obviously we know fall's coming in, winter. Has the top coat been done on the entire project? So it's pretty
No,
much small.
No, that's why time's of the essence, because we want
I
to
was
get the
just
top
gonna
coat
say,
in.
I understand your hardship, Dad. I understand how quick you need to get it in. So is any of the sidewalks, any of the handicap accessibility pieces coming down off the sidewalks been completed?
The sidewalks are about what? The binder's down for about half of it, maybe half, 3/4, maybe.
How long has the binder been down throughout the entire development?
12 years.
12 years. Has Mr. Ferry come on out and approved and state that that's still okay at this point? Because obviously that's a binder coat. It's not designed to stay out for that long of time.
Because they were out there, right? Who was out there?
I had a meeting with Peter Williams.
All right, as long as Peter Williams is involved with that, I feel calm.
Yeah, we met
Well, I
with
understand what
Peter
you're trying to do if you want to do so
Williams a month
much. Okay. And he's looked at it because I just don't want to, you're trying to have the town accept this road, correct, after it's finished?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that, like Jonathan Gale was saying, the highway superintendent has looked at it, as well as with Peter Williams, the concerns, washouts on the edges, things like that ain't completed, obviously. But at the end of the day, you're not trying to come in front of this board unless Peter Williams says, okay, that section has been complete, come and then have that money released. That's what you're looking at.
I mean, from a practical standpoint, our expectation is that we would be coming in probably to the November meeting, right? With a road that's paved, sidewalks are in, all the driveways have been blended together, and everything would be complete on that list, with the exception of the as-built and possibly some of the bounds if they're not complete. Aside from that, we expect all the material roadway construction to be done in 6 weeks. We're going to start in 2 weeks, and we think it's a 4-week window to get it done.
Now, is there any lighting along the road in that?
There are lights on each home. So the way we did it, there's 4 lights when you come in.
Yeah.
And then we put whatever lights that light up our solar lights.
So those lights, so those lights, the homeowners can activate when they want. Other than that, there is no lighting.
Correct.
This is Mr. Gale. I want to just clarify one little aspect of this for that. Before the final coating is put down, considering what Greg just noted with regard to how long the binder has been down, will you be asking either Mr. Williams and or the highway department superintendent to look at the binder prior to putting down the final coat and providing that kind of documentation?
Well, I think to be honest with you, I think we would do that anyway. I mean, we're not going to go out there.
I'm not saying you wouldn't. I'm sorry. I'm not suggesting you wouldn't do it, but I'd like to have the town highway superintendent and or Peter Williams take a look at it first to ensure that after 12 years of that being down, it's ready for asphalt, that there's nothing else you have to do to it or redo.
Fine with that, yeah.
Yeah, we're fine with that.
So that would be a condition for potential release. You're acceptable to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except you would sign off on that final.
And that would be the same for the part of the sidewalk. That would be the same for the part of the sidewalk that you started to lay the facing of the sidewalk of the binder.
So he's not gonna sign off on the top coat if he isn't happy with the binder.
I understand that.
Right.
I'm asking him to sign off to look at the binder.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else on the board with any more questions?
Exactly.
All right, so I'm gonna turn it. Yep, good.
There's a lot of people on here. I don't know if you want to open it up to them, if it's open for them. Jonathan, Greg.
Yeah,
talk to that.
we will, and I have not forgotten, and I'm not going to not. I just wanted to do the board first, and then Marguerite, and then I would do the public.
I know you was on a phone, so you couldn't see. I just wanted to tell you.
Oh no. All right. Oh, thank you. Thank you though. Marguerite, whenever you're ready.
So I think we've talked about this multiple times. I'm looking back at a letter I sent to the board back in 2014 when the 15th Amendment was originally approved. And I know there's paperwork that we do need to still take care of getting recorded around these performance guarantees, but I feel that Attorney Corey and I can work to make sure that that is done and the file is up to date. The problem we have here from a legal standpoint is that you have legal language in your comprehensive permit and you have language in the tripartite agreement that requires the developer to have a certain amount of contingency at basically the amount that's already currently being held in being held up until a final certificate of completion is issued, which doesn't happen until 1 calendar year after the town clerk's office issues a certificate of substantial completion. That's the way the language of the permit reads. Now, comprehensive permits, that can always be modified if there's a request to make a modification. But such a request has not been made by this developer as far as I know yet. And I certainly shared with the developer and with Attorney Corey for a long time that that is something this board would be willing to consider if they wanted to file that type of a request. Is it feasible to get this done within the November timeframe that he's talking about? Potentially. I mean, I guess the question would be, you know, the board, the typical process that would be followed is they would submit a request for a modification. They'd have to identify specifically what they wanted to be modified. Here it would probably be condition 21 of the comprehensive permit. I would suggest they also submit, I'm not sure if they want to maintain a tripartite agreement or if they want to go into another form of a performance guarantee. If they want to do a performance guarantee, then they wouldn't need to revise a tripartite agreement. If they want to maintain a tripartite agreement with a lesser amount, then they would have to submit some revised language under that. And they would also need to get some type of an estimate from Peter Williams, because that's what this board has required when they've done this before, that shows what would be an appropriate amount of retainage to have for the time frame that's contemplated by the comprehensive permit. So if they wanted to submit all of that information to you, they could. Usually when they submit this, you would have to schedule a meeting within 20 days to make a decision as to whether or not it's a substantial or an insubstantial change. And then if you found it to be a substantial change, you'd have to schedule it for a public hearing. That all takes time. And I mean, trying to be mindful of the time constraints that we're under, they have the ability to waive that decision-making process by you on the substantial or insubstantial piece and just agree that, you know, they're going to go to a public hearing, which could be scheduled if they submitted this within the next few weeks for the November timeframe that they're talking about. And you'd have a public hearing on it, and it would, if it had everything in a, you know, all the information presented to you, you could potentially hear from the public and make a final decision and possibly create a way for them to have a lot less held under their performance guarantee and release a lot of funding, more funding to them. That's an option that they could come up with to address this legally if they wanted to. But without some type of legal changes made to the comprehensive permit, there's no authorization for this board to release anything more than they've already released to this developer. And I understand the challenge that imposes on the developer, because that's a lot of money that's being held right now. And I recognize that. And I think that's why the idea of asking for a modification is something that we've been talking about for a number of years now. And also something that the board has indicated they would be open to considering, provided they had this information presented to them. So again, you know, it would require further communication with Peter Williams and some type of an agreement from him that this would be the appropriate amount of money to retain, and that this would be the appropriate amount of money that the board could release if the road was completed and it was approved by him. It would require potentially a modification to the tripartite agreement, or if they came in with a different concept of performance guarantee, like cash at this stage, because it's probably not a lot of money, or a bond or something else. You couldn't do a lot release because all the lots have been sold. Then you would need to come up with that type of paperwork presented. But if they had everything presented to you, is it feasible to do this in a November meeting? And is there enough time to notice for a public hearing and do some of that?
But before we move on to that, Attorney Mitchell, Mr. Chair, can I just respond? Condition 21 of the comprehensive permit requires the amount of the performance guarantee to be based on remaining costs plus a 10% contingency. Now, per the last schedule attached to the tri-party, the last amendment to the tri-party agreement. You have a total cost as determined by GZA, as determined by Peter Williams, of $129,438 plus a 20% contingency. So I submit that the board is holding well in excess of what was agreed to in condition 21 of the comprehensive permit. The tri-party agreement on page 2 and 3 just talks about what the retainage to be held after the roadway is completed. And that I have issues with, because I think that tri-party agreement, the retainage is substantially in excess of what I believe the board has asked of other developers, and is not in compliance with what the planning board requires on its subdivisions. But the reason we came in the way we did is condition 21 of the comprehensive permit requires a performance guarantee based on remaining costs, again, per GZA of $129,438 plus 10%. What the town is currently holding is a contingency of 20% plus an inflation adjustment of 10%. So I'm submitting that the town is not in compliance with its own comprehensive permit, and that there isn't any modification needed to that permit. We're just asking that the board follow that guidance in condition 21.
So I guess I'll simply respond by saying I don't agree with your reading of condition 21. The determination of the performance guarantee amount was established at the outset of the tri-party agreement. So once that amount was established, that's the final amount that would have been retained by the board. And it's not that it gets reduced as, again, it's this contingency amount that's being held by the board. And not anything else that, the board has been releasing money all the way through. So I'm trying to find it quickly in my file what the original amount was, but back in 2014, when I was looking at this, I know that I was looking at the fact that we were probably getting to, 10%, that 10% of the original amount, which I believe, if I'm finding an old one that looks like it was about 1.9 million, would have put you at the amount that you're at. So,
Attorney Mitchell, that's not what section condition 21 says, and I'm reading it verbatim. The amount of the performance guarantee shall be based on remaining costs as determined by the board or its designee to complete the site work, plus 10%, plus a 10% contingency, not the original costs plus 10%.
Again, the board approved the type and the amount of the performance guarantee at the outset when they approved the tri-party agreement. So that's how they approved that amount of the tri-party of the performance guarantee.
So what are you asking us to amend in section 21 of the comprehensive permit? We'd like it, we want to stay with this language because it's less than what is required. What's been held to date.
So I believe that the board needs to have a reduction. They need to have a modification where it's clear what the reduction will be and what amount is going to be held by the town now that the roadway is complete. So we'll need to clarify what is meant by condition 21, and we'll need to clarify, either we'll need to terminate the tripartite agreement or modify it. So, either way, there needs to be a modification made to this.
I'm trying to get some guidance. I think the comprehensive permit we're fine with because it says the performance guarantee shall be based on remaining costs. Again, $129,438. Plus a 10% contingency of those remaining costs. We wouldn't look for a modification of that language. The subdivision, the tri-party agreement doesn't really talk to that. It talks about what we do after the roadway, after a certificate of substantial completion has been issued.
So the language above that, the board will approve both the type and the amount of the performance guarantee. So the board
Right.
approved that under the condition. They approved the type and the amount of the performance guarantee.
Right.
And the performance guarantee and the type then was established this way. So I believe that my suggestion would be that you could either keep 21 if you want and add a further condition that clarifies, but you're going to need to provide some different type of performance, or you're going to need to provide some modification to the tri-party agreement. And I believe you also should provide some clarification in the comprehensive permit. Again, you know, I mean, the board, this has been the board's practice. They are willing to receive these types of requests in and consider them. I understand the situation that you're facing, especially now that we're at the point where the roadway is about to be complete. But until the board has that knowledge that they really don't need to be holding all of this money anymore, and that is confirmed by an engineer, they're going to abide by the language that they've already approved.
Okay. What I'm hoping to get is an understanding of what we need to do in terms of condition 21, the amount of the performance guarantee, which the board approved as the tri-party agreement. The amount of the performance guarantee, the amount of the tri-party agreement for condition 21 will be based on remaining costs as determined by the board's designee, Peter Williams, plus 10%. I don't think we need any modification of that language.
Well, the
If you're saying you want some change or voiding of the tri-party agreement, that's one thing, but we don't have issue with condition 21 unless you think it doesn't mean the remaining cost plus 10% of the contingency.
So the board established its approval of the performance guarantee at the outset of the tri-party agreement.
Right.
But Marguerite, why then does the tri-party agreement envision the surety being less than $170,000? If what you're saying is right, the tri-party agreement should envision the $170,000 being held to the end, correct?
Correct.
It doesn't. If you look at page 3, it says in no event shall the 10% retainage be less than the sum of $50,000. So that being said, that's where I thought we were going to end up discussing the $50,000. The tri-party agreement agrees with the comprehensive permit that it can be reduced below the 170, except the tri-party agreement says 50 is the floor.
So
yeah, we don't understand what we need to modify because, you know, if the board says they want to hold 50 as a retainage, we can accept that, but well, we can talk about it. But I don't know what more we'd need to modify. But we really need some guidance because I don't have an historical memory on this.
And hopefully, I mean, we can all look at this and
share with you the information that I've researched, and I'm going back to 2014. I at no point in time until just this minute realized that you were going to bring up these specific terms in the tri-party agreement. I'm happy to take a look at it and provide you with further guidance, but I can't do that as I sit here tonight. I can tell you that my research into this for the last 5 years, 6 years, has consistently concluded that the way this could be handled is through a modification. And if that modification is a clarification of 21 and a revision with a different performance guarantee or a revision to what you're having, it's really hard for me to know until you tell us what you're planning on doing ultimately with the final surety. Are you looking to continue the tripartite agreement? Are you looking to provide a different type of surety?
I can go either way. Whatever's easier for you, I think I can do either way.
Board,
Yeah.
certainly help me give you suggestions on guidance if I knew which route you wanted to go.
Which route do you want me to go?
Again, it doesn't matter to this board. It's just
I'm happy with the tri-party agreement the way it is. Why change it?
you go. So there's different documentation that you're gonna need depending on which route you go.
If we can't, we would like to keep the comprehensive permit as it is, and we can live with the language of the tri-party agreement.
Well, we want to change the 50.
Yeah, but, you know, subject to a discussion of the modification of the $50,000 retainage for 1 year after the substantial completion. We certainly want it, once the roadway's accepted by the town, to be released fully.
So as I sit here tonight, my advice to the board is that if it wants to make any adjustments to and release any further funding, there will need to be a modification request filed for the comprehensive permit. I'm happy to research it further for the board and provide you with further guidance at a meeting in the future. It's just going to take time.
Condition. On
Well,
what you're saying.
we're really at a loss as to, we can get the roadway done in 4 or 5 weeks. Where are we?
You can't start in November though, Margarita.
Yeah.
You can't start in November. We have to start like soon.
I feel pretty comfortable that I'm going to be researching this and telling you the same thing. The board, you need a modification request to the comprehensive permit. The board approved the performance guarantee as it sat at the beginning of the
board made releases down to $17,000.
contingency, which would have been $190,000. It's released, it's now holding $170,000. That's what's left in it. It's actually a little more, they've gone slightly beyond the contingency amount that they should have been holding in retention for this development. So I'm happy to look at it again if that's what you want us to do, but I've researched this for several years. We've had this question presented multiple times to this board, and I keep providing the same guidance.
Okay, I apologize, but I've not been involved in those multiple presentations. I am at a loss as to see where the language of the amount of the performance guarantee at the remaining costs plus 10%. I don't know where the 190 is coming from. It's not 10% of the original cost. There's no language to that effect. The only floor that we can find is in the tri-party agreement, which says $50,000. There is no 190, there's no 10% of the original. And we're up against it because we can get it done in a month.
And you can request a modification of the comprehensive permit and still do this.
There's no modification. 21 says what we're asking. There's no need for the modification.
You're not interpreting it that way. I think we need to clarify, not change the document, but clarify the interpretation, right? What you're saying is the remaining cost to complete does not mean the remaining cost to complete. It means something, the original cost. That's what you're saying. Correct?
There's no language saying 10% of the original cost.
I'm not here tonight to argue with you. I'm happy to research this. I've given my opinion to the board. I'm going to continue to research it and give my opinion to the board. I've provided you with a way that you could resolve this within the time frame that you're asking for. That's been in several emails that I've sent to you over the last year and a half, Attorney Corey. It's also what I discussed with you and the board in May of 2019 when you were before us, and it's also what I've shared with your client. I've had communication that was sent to the board about this. I'm happy to continue to research it, but I'm not going to argue with you. It has been my interpretation from the beginning. I was sitting with this board when they permitted this case. And I've been involved with the board approving the tripartite agreement and approving the original performance guarantee. So I'm relying on my historical understanding of how the board created this condition, and also my work with this board throughout in approving this condition.
Greg, you were involved in this original case, is that correct?
No, I was not.
You were not. Is Peter on the case? The call? Did he and anybody else to sign on?
Yes, he is.
All right. Does he have any comments on this? If Greg, if you weren't, then I would assume that Peter was. I'm not sure if he's muted or if Jonathan Gray, if you can get him.
Yeah, Peter, are you able to unmute yourself? Okay, so Cable, are you able to? I'm actually not a co-host on this meeting.
Okay,
Right.
now try it. No, Zach, I wasn't on this case. It was Joe Pacheco and two members that are not with us anymore.
Okay.
But I would follow Marguerite's advice to a T.
Okay. Do you have any, I guess, based on past cases, why you feel that way?
I think she's right. I agree with her.
Okay. And now, Greg, do you have anything?
I do agree with Marguerite and Peter on this. It's just a change of the modification, and I understand his frustration, but I think she's given you an avenue to move forward, and I think I would speak with Marguerite again, and I'm going to follow what she says.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mr. Gale.
Sure.
And Mike, first of all, I concur with what Marguerite is suggesting as well, that the developer needs to do and needs to file at this point. However, I understand the developer's need and wanting to move on this, but if I heard the developer in the back and forth conversation to some extent, and maybe the developer after I finish can clarify if I'm wrong, what the developer is asking for is the release to complete the road. I understand that, but by doing that, we're not satisfying the requirements that were already agreed to, number one. Number two, we don't know at this point, given the fact that the binder's been down so long and so forth, that this part of the sidewalk is probably in the same condition. We don't really know at this point if the cost is going to be what the developer is saying is going to be until it's reviewed by our engineer and our highway superintendent. And then in addition, if I heard the developer right, and please clarify this for me, I think you asked that once the road was done, the balance of the bond be released. And if that's the case, then there's no bond being held by the town for a full year after the completion of the project, which means if there are other issues to be adjudicated at some point or to be addressed, the town is on the hook for that because your bond has already been released. And I thought I heard a few minutes ago, the developer asked that once the road was done, the bond be released. If that's the case, I would have a hard time with that because, you know, even if it's only $50,000, if what needs to be done within the next year comes to $80,000, the town could be on the hook for the other $30,000 potentially. So yes. I'm asking the developer to clarify that because that sounds to me like that's going to be a very, very hard sell for me.
A couple of, may I respond?
Yes, please.
We would not ask for a complete relinquishment of the bond. We would ask that the release would follow condition 21, that the amount of the guarantee, the bond, would be based on remaining costs plus a 10% contingency. What, you know, as GZA, as Mr. Williams signs off on the remaining work and the completion of the roadway, we would look for payment of the roadway cost that he has certified as complete. We would be good with a remaining contingency, but if we can get the roadway done in the next 5 weeks, we can get the roadway. We would seek to have the roadway accepted as a public way in the spring. And you know, it's critical that the roadway be done in 5 weeks if we're going to get it done for acceptance in the spring.
But is your anticipation, let me ask you, stop there for a minute. Let me just clarify. Is your thought that once the road is accepted for public way, your involvement in the project is completed and therefore your balance of your bond should be released?
The roadway bond should be released because the roadway is accepted. It's not, and this is accepted only after an as-built plan is submitted, your engineer has approved it, the selectmen, planning board, whoever needs to accept a roadway per your rules, accepts that. So yeah, if it's a public way, if it becomes a public way, then the roadway bond should be released, but not until then. We're fine with a contingency. And again, I'm really very confused, because the language of condition 21 says the guarantee shall be based on remaining costs plus a 10% contingency. The tri-party agreement follows along with that, subject to, it says, a $50,000 retainage for 1 year following the certificate of completion, or the town's acceptance of the road. What we're asking for is nothing that deviates from this. And I understand it's, Attorney Mitchell doesn't have the language in front of her, but what we're asking for is not deviating, it's my reading, in any way from these two documents. And it's really critical, if we're going to get this roadway done for this subdivision, to do it in the next 4 or 5 weeks. There is nothing about holding 10% of the original cost. I can't find any language to that effect anywhere. And I've gone through all of all 18 years of this subdivision's history, the documentation anyway.
Okay, Jonathan, do you have anything else?
No, I don't have anything else right now. Thanks.
All right, board. So how does everyone want to proceed on this?
We have public comment.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Jonathan, so because I can't see, if you want to go ahead and just leave that for whoever you want to turn it to first, if there's anyone that's...
So, Mr. Chairman, we have quite a few individuals here tonight. Would you like to perhaps limit the time frame for public input tonight at all?
So the time is 8:14 now. We obviously got to wrap things up, and so I would say, Jonathan, probably about 50. I mean, just give me an idea there. Do you have a rough estimate of how many? Can you see, or
I see
not
about
really?
13, maybe 14, maybe 12. And
as far as you know, do they all want to speak, or are some just here simply just to listen?
Perhaps we'll do this. If you are intending to offer public input tonight, if you could you put up a little thumbs up under the reactions, so that we can.
Perfect.
Okay.
Simply
So
if you want to, if you want to speak, yep.
All right. We've got 2 thumbs up. So all right. So we'll take Mr. Nelson DeMello first. Mr. DeMello, if you could just give your name and your address so that I can take it for the minutes as well.
Sure. Nelson DeMello, 938 Dighton Woods Circle. First, I want to say I appreciate what the board's doing. In particular, around the surety, I don't agree with not having enough money in there for the next year, and I don't think that's what they were saying in the end, but I just want that to be clear. I'm still not clear on that because I thought I heard the attorney say that earlier. So if you could clarify that when you get back to it. The other thing I just want the board to be aware of is we were told in August of this year that the road was going to be done, and nothing happened. So I just wanted to pass that information on.
Okay. And now, do you have any, specifically onto what was brought up today, do you have anything in response, or any insight as to what they've, any new information that's been given today, if anything,
I don't have
or
any
no?
new information. No, I have the same concerns with the binder being out for 12 years, including in particular the sidewalks. And I happen to be on the board, so one of our concerns is also the longer this takes, the longer it takes for the town to accept the road, and we have to keep footing the bill for snow removal.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you, because I knew your position of the developments board. So I was going to ask you what you thought of the condition of the roads and everything so far for that.
Well, the road is not in great condition. There's potholes that definitely need to be fixed. But I mean, obviously, if the road gets done, that will be repaired. But it's the road's 12 years old, and it's not a real road. It's just binder. It's just a coating. But other
Okay.
than that, no, those were my concerns. Is from a board perspective, we have to keep footing the bill year after year for snow removal because the road can't be accepted because it's not done.
Right. Okay. That's definitely helpful for me. Anyone else on the
Yeah, Mr. Bierman, could you state your name, your address for the record?
Brian Bierman, 926 Titanwood Circle. Oh, obviously, sorry. I'm on the chairman of the board. I'm on the board as well as Nelson. I guess I just want to say that a lot of our residents are concerned that the project will continue to get delayed and delayed. And I understand that some of the delays have been legitimate. For example, things with COVID that came up this year has pushed stuff back. So I don't know how much that adds to what we've been talking about, but we get requests and questions all the time on the board about when's the work going to be done, when's it going to start, when's it going to complete. Like I said, it's just there's a constant concern in the neighborhood that will it ever get done? Some people actually voice that concern. I guess that's pretty much. I was going to add a couple things, but Nelson got to them. So I think from a perspective of the board, those are the kind of things that we can contribute. I guess one question I have is, with the acceptance of the road, if that can be discussed, once that's done, let's say it's spring, does the acceptance then cover stuff like snow plowing the following winter? When the town has accepted a road, does the town then take responsibility for things like snow removal?
It's my understanding
that road is accepted. It has to be accepted at an annual town meeting.
Okay, so if the work is done in November, my question is, if the work is done in November, why is the goal of getting the town? Oh wait, if it's accepted in spring, is that because it has to wait until that meeting in spring?
Yeah, so
right. It has to be. It can only be accepted at an annual town meeting.
Okay.
And
so that
also,
would be the reason of waiting.
Right.
Okay.
It would have to be a recommendation of the planning board.
Okay.
That it be accepted. So you will have to petition the planning board first.
Okay.
This is Mr. Gale, and to explain the process, you will have to speak to the planning board, or your board will have to speak to the planning board, find out how many names you need on a petition. I think it's 150 all told of Dighton residents, don't have to be necessarily living in Dighton Woods, but I may be wrong on that, so I'm willing to stand corrected. But you will have to do your due diligence because there's a specific language that has to be in that petition, which the town clerk can probably provide to you.
Okay.
And then once you have that petition, you present it to the planning board. They're going to do their due diligence. There are some folks like anything for it, some against it for, what are the standard reasons.
Sure.
They can approve the road in whole or in part. They may approve the road up to the edges of curbing, but they may not approve the sidewalks.
Okay.
There are variations to that. So you want to be very careful and very clear on it, but that's what you have to work with.
Okay.
And
All right,
I'll just provide a little bit more detail. The planning board would, after receiving a petition that satisfies their requirements, they would hold a public hearing, and I believe they would issue a recommendation as well.
So then once work is done, let's say work is done the first week of November or whatever, sometime in November, would you advise we get on that right away?
Yeah, I think it's always better to get the process started as soon as possible.
Okay.
Can we respond?
Say that again.
Sure. I just can't see or hear who said that. Go ahead.
May we respond? May the developer respond?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. So Brian, we plan on doing all that. We feel it's our job to get the street, just to get the road ready and submit it to the town for town meeting in May. The problem is, in order to have it ready for May, we do have to get the road paved in 2020. We don't have time in April to be in there paving the roads to have it accepted in May. The risk here is that if we can't figure this out, then we're not going to go ahead and do the road in May, in this fall.
In November.
If we don't know that we're going to get the money released from the bond, we're not going to spend the money. So that's what we're trying to resolve here tonight. Come up with a means in which we can get a mechanism by which we can get releases of the money. It doesn't seem like it's working out that way. So my guess is that this whole thing's going to probably sit till we resolve it, and then we'll start up again next year.
So what's the latest then,
Yeah.
Jay? Can I assume the latest you could start to get the paving done and completed this year would be around the 1st of December?
No, we'd have to be in there starting by the middle of October. To have it paved by the end of November, which would be the latest you'd really want to put a top coat down.
Okay.
And again, to address what Mr. DeMello said, the work that we would do would be reviewed and certified by GZA, the town's engineer, before any money would be released. So the process that we're asking the board to discuss with us would finalize the road, and I would hope satisfy all of the residents. That was the goal here. And again, I would be happy to go with a modification. I just can't see what we need to modify right now, because the language says remaining costs plus 10% with per the tri-party agreement, a $50,000 minimum. I'm really, and this is why we've come twice. I can't make sense of what this is, because I wasn't, again, until April of last year, I wasn't involved. So what we are hoping to get from this is an understanding as to how this money could be released, at least per my reading of Condition 21 and the tri-party agreement, with some relief perhaps on the tri-party agreement minimum of 50,000. I mean, we could, if Attorney Mitchell could discuss with me what she thinks is necessary to modify, we could try to get something in before the October meeting. I'm not sure if that's enough time, and maybe we could get the work done. But again, I don't understand what it is that we would need to modify to make this work as we're requesting it.
This is Mr. Gale. I'm going to just ask a general housekeeping question, and Marguerite, maybe you can answer this, and also the developer's attorney. But if the developer's attorney were to provide the request that we think we would like to hear or have within the next few days, can we can continue this, I assume. Can we have a special meeting for just this one item, or do we have to wait to the 14th so that we can at least... I'm looking for clarification and trying to see how quickly we can satisfy what we're looking for and satisfy the developers' need to get this done. Because I do agree, if this has to wait over the winter, there is no way this is going to make it potentially into the town meeting and the planning board on time. As it is, there's already the potential that the planning board could continue it once or twice. They have to hold public meetings. There's the winter, there could be snow delays, all kinds of other possibilities. So I'm asking about the housekeeping time frame here, how tight we can make this. Marguerite.
I don't mind trying to talk about this further. I just want to be fair to the members of the public who are here. I think there's additional people who want to speak. So
okay,
I guess it would probably make sense to allow the public to finish their comments, and then we can discuss this piece of it. Keep in mind that this is the same conversation we had with the developer in May of 2019. And in October, I think I had conversations by email that mentioned this as well, 2019. So we've already had a year where this has been open for discussion. And there's different procedures that we can follow. And I think that it's feasible to have the procedures done for the November timeframe he's talking about, where he would want to release of further funds. But, I also feel that we do have procedures that need to be followed here.
Okay, so Jonathan, do you want to turn it over to anybody else who wishes to speak, if there's anybody?
Yeah, again, if anyone is on the call and they're looking to provide public input, please give a thumbs up at this point. Mrs. Carter, if you could unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record. Yeah, feel free.
Hi there. Thank you, Mr. Gray. I'm Jennifer Carter, 942 Dighton Wood Circle. I just wanted to piggyback, again, thanking everybody for working hard on this. I just wanted to piggyback also on Attorney Mitchell's comments. You know, the people who live in this development have been waiting years, and we keep hearing it's going to get paved, it's going to get paved, it's going to be, it's very financially draining on the residents who live in the circle, because as stated before, we're paying for the snow removal every single year. You know, and I don't understand how the developer is basically getting an unlimited timetable here. You know, his attorney just said, well, if we can't come to an agreement, we're just gonna let this go another year. Well, that's another year that we're footing the bill for snow removal. And then if he doesn't do it next year, that's another year. When is there a timetable where this is going to end? And, you know, it's wear and tear on the road, it's wear and tear on our vehicles, like all those kinds of things. You know, is it feasible for the residents to ask the developer to pay the snow removal fees until he finishes the road? Because again, it just keeps going and going and going and going. I mean, Attorney Mitchell has been saying here that she's been working on this since, you know, 2014. So it's just very disheartening that there doesn't seem to be any resolve to this issue, and it just keeps continuing. So I'm just hoping that there can be something that is done to get the developer's attorney the correct language, so that we can move forward with this. And I understand it is a timely process. It's not something that's going to be a quick thing. But if he is released the monies and then it isn't, you know, it doesn't sit for a year. I'm also worried that the binder is 12 years old, and that if it doesn't sit for a year and there is no money there, that it could be a really big detriment to the town as well.
May I respond?
Sure, yep, go ahead.
All right. The points that Ms. Gardner mentioned, to correct the record, until 2018, the applicant had paid for all the snow plowing. Last year, there was no snow to plow. And as any builder would tell you, the standard is get the road done to the point where you're about to put the finish coat on, but you only put the finish coat on once the last home is sold. The last home was sold a few months ago. When was it? In March. The roadway was never going to be finished, the final coat put on, until the last home was built. And that is the way every subdivision is built. The homeowners association was run by the applicant until 2018, till 2017, 17 or 18, and he has paid for the snow plowing for all those years. We are not behind the times. We're not delinquent. We're not in default on getting this roadway done. This is the way it should have been done. This is the way it was contemplated to be done. And it's going to get done in the next 5 weeks if we can get an understanding of what needs to be modified to the board's satisfaction.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. We got two more people
Sure.
who would like to provide input. So let's just take these two and then we'll send it back to you, Mr. Chairman. So Tammy,
Yes,
if you
please.
could state your name. We've got Tammy's iPad. Tammy, could you state your name and address?
Yes, it's Tammy Condry, 913 Dightonwood Circle. I have been a resident here at Dightonwood Circle since the beginning. I am one of the oldest houses in the development, and for almost 13 years, we have been dealing with Jay Zola. And to address the elephant in the room, I think if you guys did not keep as much contingency fee as you can in reserve, you would be fools. Because again, I say, we've been dealing with Jay Zola for all this time, and we know how he operates. And just the fact that he could sit there in front of the camera and say, oh, that's fine, you're not going to give me the money, then we'll just hold it another year. That's what we've been dealing with for the last 12 years. And I just want to make sure the board is aware what we as residents of Dighton Woods Circle have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Can
Conley.
we respond?
We have one more.
Let's take Mr. Bierman, and then I'll send it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to clarify. I was just going to clarify something real quick. Yeah, Jay did pay for the applying for a number of years, which we as residents definitely appreciated. And we just paid when we took over the board in May. So the board has only paid for snow plowing for 2 years, which was 18-19 and then 19-20. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. Thanks.
Okay. And Jonathan Gray, is that definitely it then for those who are trying to speak?
Yeah, so I'll just say last call for public input. If you do have public input at this point, this is your last call. Give me a thumbs up if you need to. I don't see any. Oh, okay, we got one more. Nicole, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I had raised my hand, but I don't think I was doing it right.
And Nicole, if you could, your address as well.
Sure thing. Nicole Pavo. I'm at 967 Dighton Woods Circle.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
So I just sort of to kind of go off of what Jennifer and Tammy had both said, I'm just wondering what prevents us from being in the same position again next year. It seems like it's sort of always something, and I'm wondering what's going to prevent us from being in the same position in 2021 and in 2022, where we're being told that the agreement needs to be revisited, and we're saying, okay, well, if we're not going to give us what we want, then we're just not going to do it and keep pushing it out. We don't want to sit like this forever. I understand that Jay doesn't have to live in our home and in our neighborhood, so it might not impact him the way that it does us. But we would like for it to be finished.
For the record, the developer is proposing to get it done in the next 5 weeks and have it accepted by the town in April or May, whenever the annual town meeting is.
Our next public input, Saritha, could you unmute yourself, provide your name and address?
Yes, thank you. My name is Sarita Nellutla. I'm at 972 Dighton Woods Circle. I guess I just have more of a clarification question, I guess. I don't remember quite what it said in the contract. It's been almost 4 years, but how many public or like a visitor parking areas the community is supposed to have? And will they be done along with the roads whenever the work gets underway? I guess the question is to the builder.
Okay, so the developer can answer that.
As far as we know, they've all been built according to the plan. You know, we built them as we built the roads, we built the parking areas. So as far as I know, they're there and they're, you know, relatively complete. I mean, I think they're supposed to be dirt, right? Stone dust. So they may need to be dusted up or something, you know, for the final acceptance, but they're built.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have our next 930 Fitzsimmons. If you could unmute yourself, provide your name and address.
Hi, I'm Patrick Fitzsimmons. I'm from 930. So it's really briefly one statement regarding this binder. So my uncle's a builder. He's built multiple developments, condo units, you name it. He's done it in the Dartmouth area. And I've spoken with him regarding the binder that's currently down. So right now, Zola's claiming that, you know, the street's almost done. It's complete. It just needs a top coat. I don't know what the town rules are, what kind of regulations you're going to have regarding this binder, but binders are used mainly for temporary use only. They're usually supposed to be a bottom sub base, and that's pretty much primarily their use. When it comes to weather, snow, ice, sleet, you name it, there's damage. And so usually binder's supposed to be used temporarily, and it's usually supposed to be down for maybe the course of one winter or maybe 2, depending on developmental stages, but not 12 or 13 like, you know, we're dealing with here. I don't know what, I guess the main question I'd have kind of following up with that is, if the binder is deemed unsatisfactory from whoever is coming in, the state official or the town official, what kind of timetable are we dealing with then? Because I know this doesn't happen, you know, in a 2-week notice or a 3-week time frame. He's just saying, you know, he's able to get, you know, the very rusted sewage drains that we have sitting in the front of our development, the used product that he's gonna put in there now, which is not, you know, it's degrading and it's causing, and now we're gonna have used material at this point in time that's been sitting around for 12 or 13 years, and it should have been put in, you know, 10 years ago. So I guess the big thing I have is what kind of timetable we deal with if the binder has to be stripped up, what kind of inconveniences we have to deal with. And I mean, I guess, you know, he's already having financial problems as it is. Is he ever going to be able to pay for it? And, you know, what kind of, I guess, resolve we're going to have as a community here? And I mean, that's my question. And I don't know if he wants to answer it or if, you know, the town can answer it for me. Thank you.
If the developer wants to answer that, he can.
Sure. I'm Joe DiGirolamo. We're going to be doing the road work there. I had met with Peter Williams. He did not have a problem with the binder, and I don't have a problem with binder. So we'll defer to him. He didn't say anything then, and it'll be fine to pave over.
This is Mr. Gale. Could you tell me when you met with the developer? Methods or product with regard to the roadway.
I'm sorry, who is that? We had someone else talking over him. I just didn't hear. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. This is Mr. Gale. I was asking the gentleman the contractor who spoke. When did you meet with Peter Williams? How recently?
Oh, about a month ago. Yeah, a month ago maybe.
And was that specifically over the road? Because
yes,
if you'll note earlier what I asked, I've heard folks talk about how old the road is. I've heard folks talk about potholes in there and that it's already chopping up, that the binder's already coming up. So again, I'm going to go back to what I said near the beginning, was that I would like to see something from Mr. Williams and from the superintendent of highways, Mr. Ferry, both acknowledging that the binder meets the condition prior to a permanent surface being placed on the road.
Yeah, that's
me, that
fine.
would be a condition.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we've already talked about it, so
we have no problem with that.
yeah. And the castings that are on the side of the road there are they were bought new. There's some that are broken, and they get rusty when they sit outside. All of them do.
So are you saying they'll be replaced?
Yeah, we have new ones we'll get installed.
The new ones,
if you notice on the road, you'll see there is some cracking there. All of the drain manholes and sewer manholes have a steel plate on them that flexes when you drive over it a little bit. And over the last 13 or 14 years, they've developed cracks that you might think is a pothole, but where you see that is a location of a sewer or a drain manhole that's going to be dug
Well,
up.
again, this is Mr. Gale, I'm just going to repeat for me, a condition even to go forward, regardless of what's worked out with council, would be that we see a sign off from, as I said, Mr. Williams and from the highway superintendent.
Yeah. All right. Is there, John?
Mr. DeMello, did you have additional input you wanted to provide?
No, sir.
Okay. At this time, I don't think we have any further public input, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Okay, so board members, how do you guys feel about this? Well, how do you want to pursue? Greg, if you're going to go first.
I'm going to follow Marguerite's, what she had stated. I think the developer and the legal counsel, if they reach out to Marguerite, I really think they can work this out. I do understand the hardships with the the people that live there. And I do understand the time is of the essence right now for the developer. Due to the concrete plants close the end of the month of October to beginning of November in that time frame. So he's under the gun to get the road in. I don't want to see us hold up the developer. I'd like to see Marguerite and Mr. Curler work together and maybe come up with some type of agreement. I do agree with Jonathan Gale. As we both stated, I've been concerned with the binder. I understand. I listened to the general contractor. I've listened to the guy that's going to do the road. I do understand construction. That's what I do. And 12 years of being a binder coat down, it's been a concern. I would like to see Mr. Ferry and to go out there and have a letter written up that we can have in front of this board the next meeting saying that he's okay with it, as well as Peter Williams.
So, Greg, I do agree with you, but I did already think that. But one thing I was thinking too is that, you know, if Marguerite had said earlier this evening that, you know, she feels like that's fine, but, you know, her opinion and her, you know, reasons behind it is not going to change. Is there any benefit of having them talk? So, Marguerite, do you think that there is or no?
I mean, I'm happy to talk to Attorney Corey. I'm going to tell him what I'm sharing with him right now, which is simply that
right.
I believe there needs to be filed a modification request that would clarify the, I guess, differing readings of condition 21. I would suggest that he revise condition 21 to say whatever it is he wants it to say, that he needs to determine what the final form of surety is going to be. And depending on what that form of surety is, we'll need the paperwork submitted for that surety. If it's going to be keeping it in the tri-party agreement, then we need an amendment to that tri-party agreement proposed that would eliminate any of the language that talks about retaining amounts that they don't want retained, or potentially, if they disagree with it, could talk about retaining amounts that don't want retained. And if they want to do a different form of surety, we need that language. And then I think we'd also need some type of confirmation from Peter Williams submitted that confirms that whatever the bottom line, you know, not to be less than amount should be, is what he believes would be appropriate, assuming that the roadway is finished to his satisfaction, knowing that he's not going to get anything released until the roadway is finished to his satisfaction. So
that's how I was, sorry, guys.
I think the board, I think he could file that, and I think that we could get this done for the November timeframe that he's talking about, which is when he would be coming in to seek a release of funds anyways. The board could vote on that. You could get any input that you need to get from the public at that time. And I think it could all get done within his timeframe. But because there's a potential that this could be treated as a substantial modification request, not an insubstantial one. And because we're trying to meet the deadlines here, I'm trying to suggest that it's his, you know, up to Attorney Corey and his client, but it may make sense to just agree to hold this as a public hearing. I doubt you're going to be getting much more than what you're getting right now involved, because you have quite a lot of people on this call and interested parties. And I would say if he wanted to do that, then our timeline is set by whatever date you would have for your November meeting, how far back Jonathan would need to go to post notice of the public hearing. And that would be the deadline when everything would need to be submitted by. But it's not tomorrow. I mean, it's doable.
Right.
May I respond?
Sure, yeah.
If we are going to proceed with getting the roadway done this fall, we'd need action in October. November would be too late. And again, if we could be heard at the October meeting, or if there could be, I don't know when the October meeting is. Is it in October?
So we've got October 28th is our regular meeting date.
Okay, could we, there was a discussion about a special meeting perhaps on October 14th.
Yeah, we could. I believe that we motioned to continue our earlier hearing tonight to that date. So yeah, that
we did. Yes,
that meeting would be an option as well.
If we got the, if we got clarification, or, a proposal for clarification on condition 21 or modification, whatever. And a modification to the performance bond within the next week or so. Would it be able to be heard on October 14th?
That I'm absolutely not opposed to that at all. I mean, Marguerite, would that be enough time for you to review whatever you need?
Well, so that would be, I assume, a request for the board to declare that modification substantial or insubstantial change, correct?
In order for it to be put on the agenda for the public hearing, I would say yes. Right, John?
It's not a public hearing at that stage. That's just a public meeting.
Right. Sorry. Yep.
So we would be, let's say hypothetically, we have it on the October 14th meeting. At that point, if the board were to decide it's an insubstantial change, we would not need to have a public hearing.
Correct. The board's rules and regulations allow you to impose conditions on it. So if you don't have enough information presented to you, you may impose conditions on that approval. And that would depend on the developer to get you that information. But if you decide it is a substantial change, then you would need to post for a hearing.
Yeah, so I guess my concern is I'm not super familiar with the whole process, so I don't really know whether we would expect it to be a insubstantial change or a substantial change, and that the need to post a public hearing would be several weeks in advance, and so that is definitely something that would not really work with the timeline we're talking about here.
The public hearing posting wouldn't happen until after the board takes that.
Is there a way that the board, if we made a proposal tonight, is there a way that the board could make a decision that it is insubstantial?
No, because
I'm not comfortable with that until we get the stuff from the building, from the town on the engineering, and as well as from Tom Ferry. And I understand that there really isn't too much of that, is what the circumstances of being I'm sorry, I'm confused on this one here. I just want to make sure we clarify. Next time you do come in front of us, I'd like to see the letters from the town, and I think that will help expedite my opinion on this matter. I really want to see the stuff from the engineer before we make any decisions, whether it's substantial or not substantial.
And this is Mr. Gale. I would concur with that. Otherwise, this is just going to go on, and then we're going to get into November.
Yep.
again, it couldn't be done tonight because it's not on the agenda.
All right. So if we submitted materials within the next week, could the board consider it consider whether it's insubstantial, and if it does, approve the modification? Because again, I think that the condition 21, the language saying the amount of the guarantee shall be based on remaining costs plus a 10% contingency. We're just looking to reiterate that. And again, I would appreciate if I could talk to Attorney Mitchell in the morning regarding that language and what she'd like to see, because it was.
I think this is Mr. Gale, and you and
Attorney Mitchell. John, I think he was still talking.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm all set.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. If I did, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What I was going to say was, when you and Attorney Mitchell choose to talk is up to the two of you. I just want to make sure that you are clear, and that the developer you represent is clear, that what we're saying is, even if you're asking for the modification, we're still asking you, to make sure that you provide that other documentation from the town engineer and from the highway superintendent at the same time. So I want to make sure that even though that's not a modification, that's contingent, that modification is to some extent contingent upon this other information also being received and having us for review at the same time. I just want to be very, very clear about that, because that's what I hear us telling you, and I don't hear you mentioning that.
They put us on for October 14th. Okay, so if we could have a meeting on October 14th, hopefully the board will find this an insubstantial modification, and we would have the certification from the town's engineer and highway superintendent.
Attorney Corey, there are rules and regulations of the zoning board relating to comprehensive permits that does clarify what needs to be submitted for a modification request.
Mm-hmm.
So you may want to take a look at that.
Okay. Would I be able to reach you tomorrow morning?
Very early. I could have a phone call if you wanted, like 8:15.
Okay. Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, so what the next action on the board, Marguerite, is just to motion to continue this? I mean, I know it's not a public hearing, so do we need a motion or?
No, at this stage, the developer would need to submit something further. There's really no motion to continue. You don't want to keep this conversation open. You want him.
Right.
You're going to see if he's something further. So, but Jonathan, what's your lead time to be able to make your adjustments to the agenda? What would be your deadline for submission? This wouldn't be a public hearing, so.
So agenda needs to be posted 48 hours in advance. So if it's a Wednesday, then I would need all of the documentation submitted by Monday morning so that I can get an agenda posted on Monday.
And what day?
I know there's a Columbus Day holiday. Is Columbus Day that week?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I would probably need everything to me by that Friday in order to get the agenda posted.
Well, I believe you're closed on Fridays, aren't you?
That is correct. Thank you, Attorney Mitchell. So Thursday, the Thursday prior, I would need that information.
October 8th.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, October 8th.
Okay, so that being said, I think everyone has a clear direction of what we need to do next for this case. Is there any more questions for the applicant for the board? They have anything else they need? John, am I getting a no from everybody?
No.
Jonathan Gray?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can you repeat the question?
Sorry, I think my connection's a little spotty right now. Is there anything else among the board they want to ask or before we go on?
I'm good, Zach. Greg Logan.
Oh, all right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anything left on this agenda item. We have a few more business items for the ZBA to take on tonight, but nothing related to Dighton Woods.
Okay. All right then. So Dighton Woods, you guys are all set. And then Attorney Mitchell. Yep. Thank you guys. And then Attorney Mitchell, I believe we are all set with you unless there's anything else you want to have come before us. But Jonathan, nothing else on the agenda does involve her. Is that correct?
Attorney Mitchell may or may not want to give a little bit of a breakdown of the two decisions we had tonight.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I completely spaced that out. Yep. Okay. So if you want to, Marguerite, if you want to start with everyone you want to discuss first.
Which one do you have on first?
Let me.
I'm sorry. Your agenda was on my laptop.
Sure. I'll share my screen and you can just go from there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So here's our agenda. Let's see.
I don't have it in front of me, so if you're able to just
sure.
Whenever you pull it up.
So we're looking at case number 1. Case number 120, which is Mr. Elizardo. Right now, this is the cover letter for both cases, but the first decision in here is case number 1. So this was the garage, the 20 by 20 garage on Elm Street at 2276 Elm Street.
Okay. So I just want to bring to the board's attention, there was a footnote added to this decision. I don't typically draft footnotes in, but there was some clarification that I thought needed to occur around the specific provisions of the bylaw that were utilized or that this was applied for under. The reference in the bylaw was to section 2720, which provides for construction of a 10 by 10 accessory structure within 5 feet of a property line. And that provision says that the zoning board of appeals may, by special permit, reduce these requirements that exist in 2720 if the lot is already pre-existing and non-conforming. But that indicates a special permit would be needed, and it would also relate to a 10 by 10 accessory structure. Here we have a 24 by 24 accessory structure that was looking to replace a 20 by 24 accessory structure. And the notice of public hearing said that they were looking to place it within 15 feet of the rear lot line. Now the 15-foot setback is what is required under section 2620, not 2720. 2620 is your table of dimensional regulations, it's table B and your zoning bylaws. And that is the provision that does apply to accessory structures that are larger than 10 by 10. So, you know, rather than what I ended up doing in drafting this decision is, and I believe you would agree with me, but you know, I wanted to bring it to your attention that the reference to 2720 was taken to mean to be a typographical edit. And we believe, I made a note that the board believes that it should have referenced 2620 because of the fact that it mentioned 15-foot setback as being the zoning relief that it was looking for relief under. And because we're dealing with an accessory structure that's larger than 10 by 10. So that footnote was in there to identify this as being a typographical edit. It did grant relief. It does reference 2720 just so that it's clear that that is consistent with what was being applied for in case there was any question that somehow this decision was a typographical edit. But then it does provide that clarification in the footnote. And that would be the appropriate provision to grant relief of this accessory structure under if you were looking, if it was going to be a variance application. I did have a conversation with Jonathan Gray and the building inspector. There probably are other ways that this accessory structure could have been built with different types of relief requests from the board. For instance, there's a provision with regards to pre-existing expansions of pre-existing non-conforming structures that are not single and two-family homes. And those are allowed by special permit if the board makes a finding that the expansion would not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. I did suggest to Jonathan going forward, if there's a similar case, that would probably be the route I would advise the board to take up the matter under and to consider it under, because I think that probably is more in line with some of the information that was presented in this case and probably the information that the board was considering. And I did make note in the written decision that that would have been a possible way to address this case. And the reasoning under number 3 on page 3. So if for some reason that was needed to be followed down the road, I did make note that the board does find those not substantially more detrimental requirement to exist here.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So the board just needs to take a vote to accept this decision if it's deemed satisfactory.
Okay, now does it have to be the same members on the original case?
That is a good question. I do not know the answer to that.
But I know in the past with things like this, sometimes it is. I don't know. So that's why I just wanted to ask Margaret.
It does the members of the original case. And actually on that note, anytime you're voting on a case, even if you're voting to continue it, you really want to make sure you're using the members who are identified as voting members. Otherwise you have to take a vote to substitute them.
So now does that mean, like, if we don't, does that mean now when the time comes to talk about it again, we have to swap out the members again?
At this stage, right now, I would just make sure, I believe all of the members of the original case are here.
Yes.
Yep.
Joe, Peter, and
It-
Jonathan, I saw earlier, unless they've left the meeting.
Oh, Jonathan's here.
And as for my father, I'm not sure if he's still on. I can't see, and I haven't talked to him, so I don't know.
I see him. He's still.
Okay.
So you don't have an issue here.
So basically, one of those
if-
three make a motion, and then they can vote on it.
So the motion would be to accept the rewording of the permit? I mean, of the,
To accept the decision.
As written.
I'm sorry, what, Marguerite, of the written agreement?
To accept the decision as written.
Okay. Well, I will make a motion to accept the changes in the
No, just to accept the decision as written, Michelle, because you didn't actually make any changes.
okay, to accept the decision of oh my god, that is written. I don't know why I can't talk tonight, I'm sorry.
All right.
Now I'm getting laughed at too.
Is there a second, guys?
I second it.
Do I have to mention the case number or no?
No, it's okay. When we in the minutes, we have the case that we were discussing.
Okay.
So we've got a second from Peter. Motion made by Michelle.
Yep.
Out of just right now, we're only having Michelle, Peter, and Jonathan vote on this. Clarify.
Do we have to sign this as well and send it back into you?
Yeah. So I will follow up with you guys. If not tomorrow, then on Monday about getting a signature on this. But ideally, we would have it in front of you right now. But yeah, so I will be following up to get a signature.
I printed it out already, so I can just send it into you whenever if you want.
I think I need the actual wet ink signature.
Correct.
Instead of a scan.
For this, yes, you would.
And yeah, I'm happy to make certain arrangements to either stop by your house to get a signature or something like that.
Okay.
Sure, I can come by on Monday.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Chairman,
Zach, could you read the motion back, please, so we can vote? Or
I'm sorry.
Maybe Jonathan, since Zach's not online, could you read the motion back so we could vote?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So the motion was made by Michelle to accept the decision as written. It was seconded by Peter.
Okay. So is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Great. Next one.
Chairman, you need to poll the board because you're virtual.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I need to have your names.
Jonathan Gale, in the affirmative.
Peter Karen, yes.
Carolina, yes.
Okay.
Michelle, I could barely hear you.
I got it. I got
Okay.
it. It was a yes. All right. Moving on now to the decision for case 3, which was 2544 Pleasant Street. Marguerite, could you explain the situation with this one as well?
Sure. So I was informed that the board was looking to provide relief similar to relief that had been provided in a prior matter. And so in looking at the prior matter, we realized that that matter had actually come before the board twice. And over the course of coming before the board, the bylaw had changed. And what had originally required a variance and a special permit ultimately only required a variance. So I think that there, these cases don't happen very often. This was probably the second one since the bylaw change, and people are probably more familiar with the way it used to be. So originally the request had been for the petitioner to present a variance and a special permit. However, my understanding is that the petitioner has withdrawn the request for the special permit, and that is noted in a footnote here. But you will need to vote on that withdrawal to accept it first.
So Mr. Simplisti has submitted his withdrawal request. So Mr. Chairman, will need the the voting members on this case, which are the same voting members as last case, to vote to accept a withdrawal, and that'll be motioned and seconded, and then you would then be able to give Mr. Simbalisti, can process a refund for him of $750.
Yes, please.
And then after we accept the withdrawal, then we can then vote on the acceptance of the decision.
Okay. So I would need a motion from. Yep.
This is Mr. Gale. I will make a motion that we accept the withdrawal.
Is there a second?
Michelle Lima.
I second it.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye. Jonathan Gale.
Aye, Peter Karen.
All righty.
I, Michelle Lima.
Okay. So then next we need the vote to
refund him?
No, to approve. I think the refund, I think that's inherent within the withdrawal that he would get a refund for that. I just think we need the
right. Yep.
The acceptance of the decision.
I make a motion to accept the decision as written.
Is there a second?
Second, Jonathan Gale.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jonathan.
All right.
Aye, Peter Karen.
All right. Is there anything else, Myra, that you need from us?
No, I mean, that covers everything I believe I was needed for on the agenda.
Yeah, I believe it was, yes.
Yep, that's it. We've got nothing else. We've got general public input. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I don't believe we have anyone else on here tonight. Okay, so yeah, we're good to go on adjourning the meeting.
All right, I'll see you guys next week then.
Thank you, Marguerite.
See you later.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So that being said, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
This is Jonathan Gale. I will make a motion that we adjourn at whatever it is, 9:00 something.
9:09.
9:09. Is there a second?
Second that, Greg Logan.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, guys. Thank you.